Oh, I don't hear the music. Here we go. Let's do the countdown. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with Unbridled. Tonight we have a fabulous guest, Greg Honeycutt, back to talk about more of the trailering aspects of the equestrian world.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. And we're uh, we're going on without Genevieve tonight. She's not feeling well, so she asked me to jump in, and I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it
Absolutely
anytime.
appreciate you because I don't think anybody wants to hear me ramble for an entire hour all by myself. I'm just not really good at
You
just
actually do very well. You do well.
talking to pretend people. Well, it's not pretend people. On a live stream, I would have to have like a lot of engagement, lots of questions to keep me going.
Right.
But I do
Yeah.
tend to ramble a little bit. But thank you.
Well, hopefully we have some people tuning in, and maybe we'll just chit chat for a minute. But then I want to try to get some involvement with some of our audience. And first thing is always, because we're going to talk about truck trailer and I'm going to give some opinions and advice and all that. So I have to do my disclaimer, and the following discussion may include my opinions based on personal experience, which should not be considered direct advice. Please rely on manufacturer's information and or your chosen trusted source. And as I always say, I'm not saying I'm wrong all the time, but I'm not saying I'm right all the time. And this is just thought provoking stuff, and I love
Right.
debate. So if I make a comment and somebody disagrees, hey, let's talk about it because we learn from each other,
Exactly.
you know. But experience is always the best teacher. It's no different if you trying to teach somebody to ride a horse casually or trying to teach somebody to play golf because you're a pretty good golfer, you're going to try to show somebody else how to do it. There's always a difference of opinions and uh, comfort levels and all that, but it's still great conversation. And hopefully, if nothing else, people will watch this episode and the last couple ones that we did and think about some of the things that we've talked about.
Right.
And then,
Right.
yeah, pursue it on your own. I actually did have, and she messaged me a few minutes ago, and I couldn't even get to it because I was trying to get set up. But I had somebody who viewed one of the episodes, and she messaged me and she said, I'm afraid to leave my driveway now. Can
Oh
you help me
no.
figure out if the weight of my trailer is good for my truck? Like basically all that math. And she said,
Yeah.
is there a way you'll help me? And I said, yeah, send me a picture of your truck's door sticker and your trailer's, you know,
Hmm.
ID label with the stuff, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to see if I can help her out. She didn't get back to me, and then she just messaged me saying, "Oh, I forgot to do it." And I think she might have sent it to me, but we'll deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
Oh, Genevieve has a good point. I don't know if this is possible, but she says we need to make a calculator. Is that possible to generate something like that?
yeah, I thought about that because I know y'all mentioned something about a sheet or like a check sheet, and I thought about how to put one together, and I'm interested in doing that.
Hmm.
Um, and it would be the kind of a recap of what we talked about with your truck's rating, your trailer's rating, how much stuff do you have in your truck that lowers the weight that it can carry or pull, how much stuff do you carry in your trailer that diminishes the extra. Yeah, I think there's a way we could do it, but I'm going to go, and I don't want to rehash last show, but I'm going to remind people to try to get to the scales and
Right.
try to weigh your stuff so you have a baseline.
Genevieve says, I would think so. Like input your data and have it balance it in Excel or a Forms format.
Yeah, and at minimum, it could even be a sheet that you print and you just take a pen and just fill in and check off as you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If in that, because there are variances depending on trucks and trailers. There may not be a really clean, all inclusive way, but it's the basics, really the
Hmm.
basics, and that would be your truck, what it can do, your trailer, what it can do, what tires do you have on your truck, what tires do you have on your trailer. What we're looking for is, again, if you go back and watch our previous shows, is that weak link. Remember we talked about the trailer hitches and how they're rated, and a lot of people don't know that, or their
Mhm.
tires are rated. So the sheet is to point you in a direction that might say, "Oh, I'm all good except I need to upgrade my tires to have tires that can carry more, more weight."
Okay. Okay.
Or, "Oh, look at that, my hitch is under it's a 6,000-pound hitch, I've got a 9,000-pound something like that, just to find it and then
Right.
deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's great. But tonight you said you were going to talk about gooseneck trailers, correct? We're going to
Y
focus more
y
on those.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of felt like we spent a lot of time talking about bumper pulls because I really feel like that's where most of the problems are that you see. It's very, very easy to overload your tow vehicle with a bumper pull trailer
Mm.
or overload your trailer with gear and ponies and whatever. But we that was to give people the visual, kinda like we talked about the pickup truck full of firewood to get you thinking about what that is, what that looks like. So now we can shift that same conversation to goosenecks, and we don't have to rehash the whole thing. If you go back and watch the previous episodes, we talk about truck weight and the ratings on the trailers. Um, but there are some things kinda unique about goosenecks, and then we did kinda cover some of it. But I think basically, what Jen and I talked about, what you and I talked about after the last show was if we could talk a little bit about goosenecks, living quarters, and then shift into some driving stuff.
Mhm.
I really would like to get audience discussion and involvement in the driving part of this. So I'm gonna throw a question out now for people to respond to, and we'll get to it in a couple minutes. We'll hold the
Okay.
comments. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about with driving, and we're not there yet, but this is a question because I know there's a delay in getting the answer.
Right.
So we're gonna hold the answer, but the question is, what's your mindset when you get in your truck and you have your trailer and your ponies and you're leaving?
Okay.
If you don't always have the same mindset, what was your mindset the last time you did it? And my example would be, were you nervous? Were you in a hurry? Were you in
Mhm.
a bad mood because the pony wouldn't load? Now you're just like not having any of it. Um, what was your frame of mind? What was your mindset when you left hooked up and ready to go? And then we'll just leave that out there. And if anybody's watching, hopefully they'll comment on what their state of mind was when they took off. Um, somebody did comment with me about we talked about trailer axles, and this kinda goes into goosenecks a little bit because they said, "Well, my trailer axles don't have the springs and all this stuff like you talked about, mine are different." And I kinda just basically touched on it, but didn't go into too deep of a detail. This is what's called a torsion axle, and the difference is that you don't have all the springs and everything. There's actually rubber in the axle tube,
Hmm.
and the shaft of the, axle if I can find my other picture here. Yeah, the shaft of the axle goes through and the rubber creates a spring. So
Oh.
if you look at those 4 pieces of rubber up here,
Mhm.
then you got this square shaft. As it rotates, the rubber keeps it from moving, and that becomes your spring.
Okay.
These things are fantastic. Maybe some people don't like them, but what they allow you to have then on your truck on your trailer is independent suspension, so each wheel can do its own thing separate. There's no equalizer and everything all tying it together. The maintenance is a ton less because you don't if you remember we talked about the springs and the lubrication and the shackles and the bolts, all that's gone.
Okay.
And so you have this basically wheel hub and a wheel and a thing, and you could pretty much almost call them maintenance free. They're wonderful. So if you're shopping for a trailer or whatever, if you see that, to me, that's a benefit from the old leaf spring and all that stuff that we showed. The other thing about it is it makes it much easier to raise the trailer to match your truck because you can put the manufacturer can get you blocks so you're perching right on there and you don't have to deal with the underslung and overslung springs if you remember that whole conversation.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, to me, these things are great if you can find them um, on a trailer. That's a good thing, and you see them a lot on goosenecks, and you see, and other trailers too. But I was pleased my last couple trailers have them, and I know I don't have to deal with all the maintenance and all the stuff.
Do you
Um,
know? if that's something that comes within a specific year, like they didn't start making those until like the 2000s, or is it something we can
That I
add
don't
on
know.
to? Okay.
We could Google that and find out when they
Yeah.
kinda came to be.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, it's cheaper for the manufacturer to make them, you
Okay.
know?
Okay.
Um, but it's also, I think, a better deal for the owner, much
Okay.
better deal for the owner.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's
So that
interesting.
go ahead. Yeah, so that cleans that up a little bit, and then so let's talk a little bit about goosenecks. The gooseneck hitch in your truck has a rating, just like all the other ratings we talked about with bumper pulls. Um, Typically, you'll find that that's not gonna be as much of an issue with overloading your gooseneck hitch because most of them are pretty stout, but they do have a ball and they do
Mhm.
connect and they have a rating, and it would be important to know, um, if you can find the manufacturer's model number on the gooseneck hitch, if it was aftermarket, if it was factory, they're usually made pretty well.
Mhm.
But how that comes into play is people tend to keep buying bigger and bigger trailers with more slide outs and more ponies. And I mean, there used to be one that came to MA. It was like this triaxle, probably 4 pony, 17-foot living quarters. The thing was
Wow.
absolutely gorgeous. But on the other hand, it takes a certain type of truck to pull that safely.
Yeah.
And it is possible to get right on that edge, right where, for example, my 1 ton can do 16,000 pounds on a gooseneck.
Mhm.
16,000 pounds would be a 4-horse living quarters
Okay.
or a steel frame 3-horse with a 17-foot slide.
Mhm.
So, you look at the numbers and you go, "Well, we're already there. We're
Right.
right on the edge." And then people go, "Well, we got another pony or we got another kid," or, so but you always have to go back to your truck and make sure your truck can do that.
Right.
That's number 1. Um, Number 2 with goosenecks is the maintenance. Um, and I'm scrolling while I'm talking, and I apologize, but I wanted to try to get to. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so all trailers have some type of a roof structure, but a dressing room trailer is a little bit less to worry about. If you have a small leak in the dressing room, you're going to get the carpet wet and all that. When you get into gooseneck trailers, a lot of times you get into either living quarters that were manufacturer living quarters, or living quarters is somebody kind of put together with a dorm refrigerator and ran a little bit of power and all that.
Mhm.
The risk of damage is higher, I think, in a gooseneck trailer if you have a roof leak. So,
Okay.
um, this is my I guess this is my bison. And just to give you an idea of you know, what's on a roof. This is the living quarters, so it has a fan. These are the vents for the horse stalls. What I want you to see is how much sealant I have on them. I
Mhm.
don't mess around with roof leaks because of the amount of damage it can do. So
Okay.
when I seal something up, I really seal it up. No one's going to see it anyway. It doesn't really matter. But
Right.
what matters is it doesn't leak.
Okay.
And um, this is the front bead seal where the roof starts to come over the front of the trailer. So there's a cap. If that would be the loft part of your bedroom in your living quarters trailer. That's where the bed would be, just right off the front of the trailer. Um, this is the one that I bought. Remember I tried to find this picture for you guys the other day and I couldn't. This is the one that I bought that had sat under trees forever,
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can see
and it
that.
collected, and see,
Yeah.
like, down in here,
Uh-huh.
that sealant should continue because those panels are overlapped.
Okay.
Okay. So if you've got a gooseneck trailer especially, it's worth
So,
going up and looking. Yeah.
how often would you have to repair something like that? Is that like something every couple years, every 10 years, or for a trailer that lives outside? I'll put it that way.
Okay. So if you recall, we talked about trying to keep them out from under trees. That
Right.
one was under trees.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, I probably don't have a picture of it, but that thing cleaned up beautifully. A lot of that sealant was fine. It just needed to be cleaned up real good and all that. Once you get a good seal on it, I would check it every few years, but I wouldn't be too concerned about it if you know what you're starting with.
Okay.
But if you have a trailer and you don't know, you should get up there and clean it and make sure that it's good. If I can find this is the only stuff to use, and this is really important too. Please don't go to the hardware store and buy, bathroom tub and tile, silicone, or none of that stuff's rated for outside use. This is called Dicor, and they make 2 types. They make a, self-leveling sealant, which is like gooey, and when you put it in, I'm gonna cut back for a second, but when you apply it, it runs down into the crevices and it flows.
Okay.
You can use that on the roof because you want it to kind of find the low spots and settle.
Mhm.
You wouldn't use it on the vertical thing because it would run. So they make a non-sag version. I buy that stuff like cases of it because if you clean up and you put that stuff on, it will last 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. It will last because it's
Okay.
made to be outside. It's UV protected. It's just wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Where did you
Um,
say you got it again?
well, you can get it on Amazon, but any of the
Amazon.
RV supply places use it. But this is actually a bead over a bead. I went over the bead that was there with my new bead, which is fine, and it's self leveling, and it just kind of works itself into this stuff. But water's not getting through there, and it's going to last a very, very long time. If you buy the cheap white caulk or whatever, you're wasting your time. Actually, you can make it worse because it can just crack and then catch water. Um,
Ugh.
I have a neighbor who had a camper. He let a small drip go, and by the following year, the whole ceiling was destroyed. He ended up totaling the camper over a roof leak, over literally a little tiny hole. So I really encourage people to get up there and look. And we have snow sitting on our roofs right now, and all that stuff finds a way to get in.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that's just like a general maintenance idea for something you can do. Yeah. Oh, here's a good picture. I mean, again, I'm not looking for beauty with my sealants, right? That's a
Yeah.
rivet that's covered. Right.
Oh, wow. Okay, no, that makes sense though, because then
Every
you'd have
every
to just
every rivet, yeah, every
fill in
rivet
all the
gets
cracks. Right.
right. Yeah. I mean, and that's really, I think it's a cheap way. That stuff's like, I don't know, it's gone up, but it's probably $13 a tube now.
So you would recommend
Whatever.
getting up there? I mean, I can assume so my trailer's a 1994, I think 1995 trailer probably, a Sundowner, and, it's a gooseneck, and I don't know that I've been up there since the year we brought it home. I think it was 2020, fall of 2020 when we brought it home. We pressure washed the whole thing, got it nice and sparkly clean, but I haven't been up to the roof to really look at it since, because that wasn't like that
Yeah.
wasn't something that I thought that I needed to take care of. So, I definitely plan on getting up there this spring and taking care of it. I did repair some light fixtures the whole way around. My dad helped me install like LED lights the whole way around and make sure all of our light switches are now working because there was some kind of, I think, corrosion and some problems with the connection. So he helped me with that. But I guess my question was, how long? Genevieve wants to know how long is it going to take to seal like a whole trailer for like a two horse?
Well, how long will it take to do it? You can do
Yeah.
it in a couple hours.
Okay.
Get a good ladder. Don't be leaning and stretching and reaching over the roof of your trailer.
Okay.
I you ever see those fold ladders that like they fold up and then they come out and then you can extend the things on them?
I think
I've
so.
got a
Yeah.
really good one and the bottom like comes out really wide
Yeah, I think
and
we
it's
have
so
one.
stable and you can
Okay.
actually put it in weird positions. Use a really good ladder. If you have a holder, that's even better. Somebody because you can always try to get that towards the
Right.
middle and kick your ladder out. And the trailers are higher than you think when you're on your way
True.
down.
Yeah.
And so your trailer might look like this, which is what my 2-horse bumper pull looked like
Yeah.
before I did the seal. I mean, the factory sealed every rivet, but that's aged out, you
Would
know.
you recommend pressure washing the top of it before I go to seal anything?
Um, you may not need to be that harsh on it.
Okay.
You might wanna get up there with a
Like
sprayer
just
and just
wipe
run
it
it with
off.
a brush. Yeah,
Yeah.
just run it with a brush, but make sure you don't leave any soap behind because you
Okay.
want the sealant to stick to, you know,
Right.
metal or even stick to the old sealant, which it will.
Okay.
And, it's called, Dicor. yeah, Dicor lap sealant. And like I said, they make the 2. They make the non-sagging and what did I tell you the other was called? Um,
Ooh, I don't know, but the
I
the
gotta remember them.
sagging
I'm
and the
having a
non-sagging is
brain
how
fart.
I remembered it.
Self-leveling. There you go.
Self-leveling, there you go.
Self-leveling and non-sagging. It comes in white and maybe almond. But again, no one's going up there. I think they might even do a gray. No one's gonna be looking at it. So just, goo it up.
There
Let's
you
see,
go.
Carol
Oh,
Ann.
Carol Ann, I had a leak last year. It was coming from my light on the
Mhm.
top edge of the trailer. The water followed the electric lines and dumped out the opening in the middle front of my trailer. Caulking the lights stopped it all, but I probably need to use a better product. Ooh.
Yeah, and here's what she's talking about, right?
Okay.
Um, the water comes down and it gets into the fixture, and there's a hole drilled in the trailer for the electrical wire to go through. So what you can do is take that same lap sealant, take the non-sagging, and run a little mustache across the top, and it doesn't even have to come down over the sides much, so nobody will see it from the ground, but just basically just goo it up. If you have the light taken out, if there's a hole here, you can run some goo and then squeeze the light over it and then wipe the goo off where it squeezes out. Those lights are notoriously bad. They usually come with a little felt or a little rubber gasket that over years cracks. And Caroline, you're right. Most most leaks in these roofs are either the rivets or the lights.
Mhm.
Occasionally, this where they overlap. But trailer manufacturers are getting away from rivets, and they're using the same technology that they use in cars now. They're using a bonding adhesive. They're gluing cars together now instead of welding them, and they're gluing trailers together. And honestly, if I could find a picture of the bison from the side, yeah, um, I really like this overlapping panel without the rivets. I think it's cool.
Ah, okay.
And when I bought it, one of the panels had sprung loose just from flexing, it popped. So
Okay.
I re-glued it, and I'm like, "That's so much better than having a rivet," and it looks really professional. So those are the bonded panels. Um, I think they're great. But yeah, the lights and the new trailer I bought, I just went ahead and pulled every light, resealed every light, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
as I could, and I
yeah,
had time, and I'm like, "I'm not waiting to see it coming down the wall. Let's,
right,
it's easy breezy stuff, really. I mean, I say that relatively. So
yeah,
usually you go to pull the light and the screws are rusted and you have trouble. Some lights are riveted to the frame or to
right.
the body, but all that could be made right and made better than what the factory was willing to do. Let's
Right,
see,
that's what
Kenny.
my dad took time doing with me over I think it was over the fall. We just, like, took, like, an entire weekend, and we're just like, "Okay, let's just fix some things on the trailer, make it more aesthetically pleasing, let's make everything fix a little bit better." So, we went around and replaced all the lights and then caulked around the lights and stuff too, but
And if you have the old incandescent, the old bulbs, if you buy
mhm.
the LED, they make almost all of them can be replaced with a modern LED light
Yes,
instead
that's
of
what we got. We got the modern ones.
That's I mean, because those bulbs, if you had any and pulled them, they usually are sitting in a rusty socket, and you
Yeah,
gotta wiggle them to make them work,
right,
and it's just
right.
like for $6. I actually went to the surplus place, a buck and a half each. I bought like 3 dozen of them. I just
Yeah,
bought basically everything that they had in LED and went around and knocked them out, and I got a whole pile of them. If I break one, I've got a spare. I'm gonna
that's
tell you a really crazy story about lights real quick. My motorhome has a rubber roof,
yeah.
and a couple years ago, I was driving it to the Grange, and it was started going whap, 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 making this crazy noise. And if I slowed down, it kind of went away, and if I sped up, it kind of went back. And I thought it was like the air conditioner cover banging or the antenna
Oh,
slapping. I'm
okay.
like, something is loose up there. So I drove it. Alice listened, and she goes, "Well, I think it's the air conditioner." And I checked it, and everything was good. And I couldn't figure it out and couldn't figure it out. Well, I went up on the roof and really looked, and the rubber roof looks like it had expanded like a balloon, like it had stretched and was pulling away from the sides a little bit under the where they attach it. And I'm like, "Well, how did that happen?" Well, I went to the front of the motorhome, and one of the lights, the cab lights above the windshield, which is right below the roof,
Yeah.
the cab lights like the markers,
Mhm.
had a stone shot in it. And what was happening, and this is crazy, weird engineering stuff. Wind was getting in through the light, hole in the light, through the hole where the wire is, and under the um, rubber of the roof and inflating the roof when
What?
I was driving. And that's why it was slapping. And I remember one time going up 220 and this guy was getting his mail and he just stared at that thing. And it probably had this big, you know, well, when you're driving it, you can't
Yeah.
figure
You
that
wouldn't
out.
see
So
that? No.
yes, but that was
Crazy.
it. So beyond water, air can do weird things too.
Yeah, true.
And so I ended up just re-roofing it. It was actually a pretty easy job, and I was really happy to do it. But I drove it for a while trying to figure out where's all that noise coming from. So,
Wow. Yeah, that would take me a long time to figure out. Kenny says on my old trailer, it leaked at the rivets at the front. I used the
mhm.
Flex Seal caulking and it worked great.
Yeah, and if I re-rivet a trailer for any reason, I usually will. You drill your hole for the rivet. You know how rivets work. You pop them in, then you squeeze, and I'll drill the hole. I'll dab some Dicor in the hole, then I'll pop the rivet in, and hopefully it will pick up some of that slack. But rivets will leak through the center pin of the rivet. The rivets aren't waterproof by nature.
Okay.
So if you walk around your trailer and look, it's called the nail. It's the center of the rivet.
Yeah.
You can take a little bit of sealant. Even this, you could use cheaper sealant like clear sealant.
Okay.
And all right, so again, the best clear sealant I use is gutter seal. It's made if I do a gutter installation or work, this gutter seal is like designed to be outdoors. It's designed to be in water. It's gooey and sticky and horrible. But a tiny dab on your finger and you go right over the nail of the rivet.
Hmm.
Nobody ever sees it, and it clogs that. And yeah, Kenny, that's really common. And you might not think it's a big deal till it's on the front and you're driving 70 miles an hour, right? With the all the water coming back and now you're forcing water through the rivets. So
Right.
again, that's why I like the bonded panels.
Caroline says, do you need to remove the old sealant first or can you apply over it?
If it's tight, leave it alone. If it's
Okay.
loose and cracked, tug on it, but don't scrape it. Don't go after it with a putty knife because again, your new crown is gonna go over that old stuff anyway. So it would be kind of futile and really time consuming to strip it clean. Just whatever you put on it, like I showed you in my picture, it's going to be wider and taller than what's there. So you're just
Okay.
covering it. And
It's not going
also
to be
that helps
very pretty.
prevent, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, here's mine again. It's not beauty, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the old sealant helps keep the new sealant from sagging into a crevice, right?
Hmm.
So now you've already got this sealant, which is a little bit of a bead, and you're
Hmm.
going over it. So you've eliminated the low spot. If you scrape it out, water always ends up. So I just go right over it. It's if it's in good shape. And honestly, the first time you use Dicor, you'll use a caulking gun,
Hmm.
and you start getting that stuff on your fingers and all that. You'll realize how good it is and how that doesn't matter. Like just right over it and you're good to go. That stuff
Great.
is amazing.
Genevieve wants to know if
Um,
you know what brand gutter seal to use.
I'd have to look it up. I buy it at our local because I have a contractor's place in town that I can buy from. It comes in a blue squeeze tube, and it's the best. It's not Lowe's or any of that. It is the best stuff. I think it's made by one of the gutter manufacturers. I'll
Hmm.
find it for you. I use it around for other projects too. If I need something that's really watertight, the gutter seal it's clear, so it's all good. But really good stuff.
Nice.
So that what else? That was just kind of like because we're going to talk again, maybe hopefully in a month or two or whatever, closer to trailer buying season about maybe how to look for a used trailer and things to watch out for. And some of that plays into what we're talking about tonight. This is just sort of like, hey, February, whatever, nice sunny day, it's dry. Maybe it's worth getting up there doing that stuff will dry within it. Like, I mean, literally I've put it on and it started raining and it's fine. But
Okay.
overnight it doesn't take long to set up at all.
Okay.
Like in the sun, it will set up in a couple hours.
Oh, this is a good question. Caroline wants to know how many tubes would it take to do an average trailer? So let's say 2 3 horse, two to
Okay,
four
so if
horse.
you if you have vents, like I have a vent for each stall, so there's 3 vents.
Okay.
we'll say without living quarters, because there's a ton of stuff popping up through the roof on living quarters that you have to seal.
Okay.
TV antennas and air conditioners that, well, you don't really, well, yeah, you do air conditioner stuff and bathroom fans, but just your 3 or 4 horse without living quarters,
Mhm.
you're going to have basically the vents for the stalls. Um, then you're going to have around the roof, and then possibly a couple seams. Um, I I would buy like 6 tubes.
6. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you may not use it all, and normally what I'll do is when I go over to, like, if I'm gonna do a trailer, I'll grab, like, 4 of the self-leveling and 1 of the non-sag
Mhm.
and start there.
Okay.
But again, I'm really liberal with that stuff because 'cause I've never seen it. Some adhesives and things, if you put them on too thick, they crack, and the manufacturers are like, "Ah, don't go over a quarter inch and all that." Dicor is not like that. Dicor, especially the leveling, it finds its way into things, and it just the stuff is amazing. So yeah, and it doesn't hurt to have some on hand because if you come across a leak, you can always just, you know,
Mhm.
you got your Dicor, you can fix it. But yeah,
Okay.
probably maybe you'll use 3 or 4, but I would just buy, you know,
6.
6.
And then
Yeah.
keep them in storage or whatever when you need them for
Sure.
later.
Yeah.
So Tommy has a question from a little while ago. He said, "What are your thoughts on airbags to help out with leveling the ride?" And I guess he's talking about in general.
Um, well, truck airbags are good. Sometimes they're really important to help level things out. On the other hand, sometimes they'll give you a false sense of security if you're not aware of your axle rating, your tire rating, back to all those numbers that nobody likes to talk about, right?
Right. Right.
So when you put heavier springs on a truck to up the towing, that's good, providing the axle on the truck can handle the extra weight, providing the hitch that same with airbags. If you put a heavy trailer on a truck and it sinks the truck, the first question is it too much trailer? Not what do I do to make my truck stand up better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it doing it? Again, always good to go back to the scales or to look at the manufacturer's labels and say, well, wait a minute, my truck can haul a 16,000 gross vehicle weight trailer. This trailer is only 14, so it's not the trailer. And then at that point, yeah, airbags. There's another thing too. I use them for snow plowing for the front instead of airbags in the front of a tow vehicle or a snow plow vehicle that's got the heavy plow.
Mhm.
They make these rubber. They look like big hockey pucks. They're called Timbrin um, things. And
Okay.
what they do is they sit in the suspension, and they don't do a lot until the suspension starts to drop, and then they're resistance because they're like a big squeezy rubber thing.
Okay.
So it doesn't allow you to level, but it does keep you from bottoming out because they
Okay.
kick in, and
Mhm.
so they're great for snow plows and stuff. The motorhome, they make a version for that for my motorhome. Same thing. Doesn't do anything until it starts to sag, and then they kick in and keep it from sagging more.
Okay. Interesting.
So
Oh,
uh,
Genevieve says, "What's a truck airbag?" For those of you who
okay,
don't
so
know.
they're and it's funny about airbags too because now with safety, some people will think of airbags as being that thing in the steering wheel.
Right. It's not.
But inflatable bags have been around forever as a way to add to either raise suspension up a little bit or to help suspension from sagging because the airbag is like if you jump on a whoopee cushion, right? Like it's keeping you from hitting the floor. And you can inflate them to different pressures. And actually, their cars, the old Lincoln Continentals, those big boats, those big old Tony Soprano looking things,
Mhm.
they had airbags in them. A lot of Mercedes have air ride suspension. And
Right.
when they sit in a driveway for like 3 weeks, they look like this. And you start
Mhm.
the car,
And it
right?
raises. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It
So
inflates.
airbag suspension is nice because it's a little bit supple.
Yeah.
So it's not like a hard ride even when you're using it to level
Oh, it's
trucks. And then
smooth.
I
It's a
and
smooth
somebody
ride.
because
Yeah.
I think your dad,
Yeah.
somebody on here
Yeah.
mentioned they can adjust the height with or the truck will do it for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So when I first started towing, I would use my dad's truck because that's before we had the dually. And my dad, he has a Dodge Laramie, whatever Eco Diesel, and it came with like the airbag suspension on it. So as soon as you hook the trailer up to the truck, as soon as you start to like put the trailer on the truck, it will just automatically lift the bed while you're lowering the trailer down, so you don't have to lower it as much, and then it just automatically levels everything out, and you don't even have to think about it. You just say, "Okay, tow mode," and then you just drive away, and you're, like, ready to go,
Yeah.
versus, like, on our old truck, it's like a 2005 or whatever, but, like, our one-ton dually, you obviously hook everything up and you go, okay, now does it look level? Does everything look okay? But it changes everything. It makes it the ride is so much more smooth with airbags too, which is
Yeah.
exactly like you said, it's kind of a false sense of security because my dad's truck is a lot smaller and obviously it's only got the four wheels versus the dually has the six wheels. So the brakes aren't as good, even though the ride feels smoother. I don't know
Yeah,
quite
the
how to
yeah,
explain it.
no, the ride's smoother. You're riding on 2 tires, so the stability is different than a dually. Is one of
Yes.
the nice things about dualies is not only can you carry a lot more because you got 4 tires spreading that weight. We talked about the tires having like a 5 or 6,000 pound limit per tire when I got 4 of them.
Right.
So now so like my truck with the single rear wheels will do a 16.8 gooseneck. If it were a dually, it would do like 23,000.
Mhm.
I didn't need that, so I'd rather have the single wheels because it's really hard to drive a dually. We don't drive it every day, but the old thing about, like, going through the bank drive-in and all that, dualies are just a
Oh,
pain.
that's my
If
life.
if you're actually gonna, use it for more than just hauling, but dualies are
Yeah,
definitely the right way to go.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's what it can do. It can give you that nice feeling, but it doesn't give you license to overload everything because, "Hey, look, it's not sagging at all."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it always goes back to the numbers and the scales for safety.
Mhm.
We talked the other day about that, the plug cover thing, and I wanted to show people what I was talking about because I didn't have a picture, but this is it, and because I think Jen was real interested in that too.
Oh, that's
So,
nice.
you yeah, and I only put 2 screws in mine instead of 4 because I don't really like drilling holes in my trailer frame. But what it does is it captures the loose plug upside down so that rainwater and everything, just comes across and it's even running down the wire. I mean, it's perfect. Strongly recommend them. Be careful though. The manufacturer of one of them on the package shows it installed backwards with the plug going down into the in it. Now you just have a water trough, right?
Now
You're
it's
just going to
toilet.
collect. So I wanted people to actually visualize that and see, yes, it hangs upside down. That's the point.
Right.
And if you have one that somebody put on backwards, you can unscrew it and flip it over. But the whole point of it is away. And on that note, again, I ramble and I all over the place. But your trailer plug, right?
Mhm.
And your plug receptacle on your truck. I'm surprised the number of times I find them with broken cover doors. You know what I'm talking about? How you have to lift up the
Cover
little door to
doors.
plug it in. So you lift up the door and then you push
Oh,
the
yeah, on the truck. The little door
right.
the little lever thing. Yeah.
And I see them broken and gone all the time, and a lot of people don't realize, eh, and a lot of people do, so I don't want it to sound like I'm talking down to people, but a lot of people don't realize that that cover door has a notch, and when you put the plug in, the spring of the door comes down, and it keeps the plug from coming out.
Oh, so it's got like a dual
It's like
purpose.
yeah, one is
Yeah,
to keep it from getting stuff in it, but 2 is to capture the thing, and,
right.
um, not to mention a significant other who I love dearly, but she plugged in one day, and I just walked by and yanked it back out. I'm like, "You gotta push it in all the way till that little door drops,
Yeah,
and you should not be able, right,
yeah.
to pull it out." So you don't kinda three-quarter it in there. You push it in and use that door as yeah, see, because what'll happen is it will pop out on you, or it will come halfway out.
Interesting. Now I need
So
to see if mine does that because I remember thinking, like, mine, like, pops out, but maybe it's just because 'cause I'm not pushing it in hard enough to begin with.
and that may be because it's that extra little push that usually will clasp it.
Yeah.
GM on mine, for some reason, they on some of the production runs they did, they put them in upside down, so my door flips
Oh.
down. so my plug goes in upside down. It still captures it, but it's really dumb, and you can't just take the thing out under the bumper and flip it because of the way they did the cutout. Like,
Wait a
it's
minute,
a
wait a
big
minute.
deal.
Say that again. So it's you said it's upside down? Isn't the door supposed to come up?
Yeah, mine, the door comes down because it's a dual it has a
Oh,
4 pin, like, the boat, like Tommy's
yeah.
boat's probably a
Yeah.
4 plug pin.
Mhm.
It has the 4 pin on top and the 7 underneath, and the door flips down.
Oh,
Then they
gotcha.
realized that was really stupid and they flipped them around again, but there are some out there like mine, and it's no big deal, but it's not right. The door's supposed to just kinda come down and catch it, so you can't pull it out
Gotcha.
and that.
Caroline says, "What
So,
do you call that dummy plug receptacle?" Dummy plug.
um, trailer plug protector, if you look at it on Amazon, you'll find them. They make different styles, but they all do the same thing, and they need to have this hook right here to grab your plug to keep it from sliding out, right? So, remember how the door comes down and it catches that plug?
Oh,
The
yeah.
little hook the little hooky thing does the same thing so that the plug can't
Gotcha.
drop, alright? So, don't buy one that just is the protector that doesn't have the, I'm tr it's funny. I use so many computers, I was trying to touch screen my computer and it doesn't have that. Um, I'm like, "Why is it not switching?" Um, so get the one that has the little hook so it'll hang. Those things are great, and they're dirt cheap, and,
Yeah.
install it on your trailer. Um, Trying to think what else with before we move to our driving discussion, what else can we talk about with trailers? Anybody have any questions or
So
comments?
Genevieve had another question. She said, "Talking sealant has me thinking of all the competitions this year in the rain. How do we prep for weather complications? What can we do to prepare?"
Um, I'm trying to think of
I would just say drive
times.
slower.
Yeah, time I'm trying to think of times. By the way, I put smaller plugs in my earbuds, so I'm
I
not doing this
noticed.
all night. And I
Yeah.
also ditched one. It's actually better with just one because I don't feel like I'm in a tunnel.
I
So I
was
just put one in
wondering.
and I can hear a little bit of, what's going on. Yeah. Anywho, like I said, I drift. Um, I'm trying to think of competitions where rain has caused people to have trouble.
Mm,
It would do it with your trailer plug, no doubt about it, right?
okay. Okay.
Um, I mean, I hydroplaning and rain and stuff can do weird things to engines and trailers, but there's not much you can do to prevent that. Um,
Weather
yeah,
complications. Yeah, wind? Maybe okay, we could talk about wind too, because 'cause it's been extremely windy here. I don't know about where you're at, Greg, but, like, it's been, like, 20-mile-per-hour winds. I would just say just don't go. Like, don't drive it.
well, and maybe to dovetail off of that a little bit, and it's not quite the same thing, but the one thing that I'm kind of picky about, and I know I drive Alice crazy with it, is wherever you put something in a truck or a trailer, it is not gonna be in the same place when you get there unless you really, really, really think about what's gonna happen. Is it gonna shift? Is it gonna move? Is the wind gonna we put hay bags in our truck right behind the rear window that's stuck up, and
Mhm.
we got to the competition, they're all back like that because the wind just blew them over. They folded. No harm, no foul, but they were rubbing the front of the gooseneck, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want that." Same thing with stuff in the trailer. People pile stuff into trailers, and they don't strap them or they don't wedge them. And
Mhm.
then you get there and your stuff's all over the place. So that's not really a rain thing, but it is a traveling thing to anticipate that everything's gonna move and get bumped and get bounced around and things get broken that way, right?
Yeah.
We had a problem with the little sundowner. Our saddles kept falling off of the saddle racks.
Mine too. I just took the saddle rack out. I was like, "I'm done with this."
So we use saddle covers. And
Yeah.
so we just put a bungee from the front to the rear and it's not tight. It just hangs over the bridge of the saddle right down the middle, and it kinda
Oh.
kept it from doing that. Yeah, or you could put your no slip pad on the
Yeah.
plastic saddle rack
Yeah.
saddle holder, and then
Yeah.
put your saddle over the no slip. They do this, and that's the kinda thing, you're turning and everything's going all over. So that, if you have a living quarters, definitely. I mean, if you can, if you put your awning out and it rains, try to let the air dry it before you roll it up. Because
Yeah,
when you pull it out in 6 months, it's going to be this moldy, gross. Same with the mats, like the big mats outside the trailer. I'll make every effort I can to make sure they're dry when we leave. Doesn't always happen, but then they come out. I don't leave it in the trailer for the next time. I
good.
don't,
No, it'll get all
yeah.
moldy in there. Absolutely not.
But rain preparations, if you think about MAs, think about the times you've been in the rain and things that you're like, boy, I wish I had. I'm not big on umbrellas around ponies. It's just a personal thing of mine. I don't
I feel
like
the
it when
same way.
people have big umbrellas.
Yeah,
People do it, but rain gear, extra rain gear. If you're changing that tire on the side of the road, the rain gear,
yeah,
um, extra. So definitely think about the gear and how that might affect how much you enjoy the weekend.
yeah. Oh, Linda says my saddle rack has the carpet over the plastic. Mine does too. Mine has the carpet, but I feel as though my saddle rack is made more so for Western saddles, if that makes sense. I don't know. They're just
Mhm.
more
Right, right, different form.
blocky. They're more
Yeah,
blocky. So whenever I put my English saddle on it, it doesn't have anything to like grip on. So I
yeah.
took the whole thing out and just put it in my basement.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, they're handy, it really depends. Sometimes less is more because those plastic ones that are all molded and formed, they seem worse than the ones that were just like a metal rod
Yeah,
with, like, 2 little side pieces. They didn't look like a saddle or
right.
the back of a pony. They were just sorta like
Yeah, they
and
were
they
just
seem to work
there.
better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that and, does anybody else have any other thoughts about oh, and again, this is gonna be in the what to look for when you buy a trailer thing that we might do, like, closer to March.
That's a
But,
good point.
I always go back to trailer weight, and I always go back to overloading, and I would like people to think about this, especially if you're looking even now for trailers. Trailers with living quarters from the factory are designed sometimes kind of flimsy because weight is the primary factor. Obviously, they're cheap and they don't want to spend a lot of money on it. But now those outlaw conversions and some of them are beautiful. And the one in my new trailer is absolutely wonderful. Real wood, like padded walls, they went all out, but it was still done by a coach maker. And the reason
Mhm.
why I say that is because if you see a really good deal on a 3-horse living quarters and the guy did it himself,
Yeah.
he probably went to Lowe's and used really heavy 2 by 4s and really heavy lumber and had no thought about how to keep the weight down.
Yeah.
And now you gotta go to the scales because I've
You
seen
have
some
no other
really
way of knowing.
nice jobs, but obviously the guy was a kitchen cabinet builder or a home remodeler, and they don't care about weight.
No.
So, if you see that and you think, "That looks like that was done by the trailer owner," let weight be in the top of your mind about how is that gonna affect what that trailer can carry because it's already carrying all this stuff that maybe it shouldn't. And then my other point on that, again, that's for another discussion, but just something to think about is there are certain ways to do plumbing and electrical on trailers. And although oftentimes I kind of think it's not done very well, it's done with vibration and things in mind.
Mhm.
And so oftentimes when people will do their own renovation, they have no concept of how much bouncing and how much swaying and how much stuff gets beat up. You really shouldn't put a home window air conditioner in a trailer. Homes don't travel, well, they shouldn't travel at 70 miles an hour down the road hitting potholes. Those the internals of a dorm refrigerator or a window air conditioner were not made for travel. People do it, it's fine, it's great. But if you're out looking to buy something, you wanna be like, the manufacturers have been there, done that, and they know how to use the plastic plumbing pipe and the stuff like that that kinda moves around and
Right.
yeah, just a
Right.
thought.
Caroline says we used an old ratchet strap to strap saddles to the pad. I put the pad over the saddle to protect it from the strap.
Yeah,
Smart.
and that's what we do with the saddle cover and then a very loose bungee, just something just to kinda steady it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can do that,
Well, Caroline says, have you tried turning your saddles in the opposite direction?
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because, Alice said to me not long ago that she wasn't using the bungee as much. She said, "They're not sliding that like they used to," and I think I asked her, "Did you flip them around?" Yeah, yeah. I think you're absolutely right about that. It's that I think that's what we have been doing.
Yeah. I don't know that I gave mine the chance. I just got tired of them falling off the rack and then realized that the saddle rack also took up like half of my, tack room. So
Yeah, yeah.
I just tossed it out and replaced that space with a mini fridge and now. that's
Yeah,
how we live. So
yeah, and it's better. I mean, you don't really need it. I mean, there's some benefits to, obviously keeping them up off the ground and all that, but
right, it's just two
yeah.
saddles, and we typically put them in the back seat, so it's fine.
Let's see.
Caroline, less applicable for weekend travel since you're packing stuff anyway, but for day travel in the rain, having spare clothes in the trailer is great. You can get really chilled in wet clothes, so having warm and dry is good in cold weather. That's a good point.
Yep, and if I give the Lieutenant Dan advice, make sure you have a dry pair of socks, right?
Oh, very
Remember
smart.
that from Forrest Gump?
Yes.
Because, uh, that's the one that gets me the most is when I just have wet shoes,
Yeah.
wet feet, and I'll tell you a funny story. I replaced the starter for well, she wouldn't mind if I tell you, but Diane, her starter went out at Morven Park.
Oh,
And remember how it was raining in Morven Park? I
yeah.
don't know if you were there, but it was raining like crazy. And I said, "Well, we'll just go get one. We'll put it in. It's all good. We'll do it." And she's like, "It's raining." I'm like, No problem. It will be fine." And the way where she was parked, like there was like this trough of water running, and I'm under the truck, and my feet are sticking out, and my feet are in the waterway, and I can just feel my boots filling up with water. It was so
Oh
funny,
no.
and I didn't mind it. It wasn't cold or anything. It really wasn't that bad. It was just wet, but I
Yeah,
was just kind of laughing, going, "Well, yeah, dry shoes, dry socks. You gotta have spares."
that's so important. Oh, and oh,
Um,
Caroline says, or if your horse just dumps you in the river while riding.
sure,
So that could happen
yeah,
too.
yeah. Um, I think that most of us, and maybe some of our discussion is geared towards new people,
Mhm.
new truck drivers, new trailer drivers, new people into MGA, whatever. Um, Caroline, I mean, you guys are really good at in packing and planning and bringing the right stuff to make sure anticipating what could happen. You know, I'm always impressed with that. Carl has everything you could ever need in his stuff. So there are people that do think about the what ifs, and let's be over prepared, bring an extra, and I'll do it sometimes not only for myself, but I'll throw it in case somebody needs it. It's sort of my mindset. Well, somebody may need that. We'll just throw it in there, you know.
Right.
But you can't really just run out the door and not think about all of those. And sometimes the weather will get you because you'll say, "Oh, it's going to be 50. I'll be fine," and then it's 42 and sleet. Um, we had a
Right.
competition like that this year. People are like, "I had no idea it was gonna be this cold, and I didn't
Oh
bring
yeah.
this and that," you know?
Oh, what was it? MA6 or something. Oh, it was freezing.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
rough. Yeah,
in the
no.
wind.
We appreciate you bringing extras, Greg. We count on you. For those of us who
Um,
don't know what to do.
so if we have a couple minutes, and
Mhm.
and we can I think we do this quickly, but I did wanna get to the driving thing. And
Mhm.
again, this is just gonna be kinda basic, but did anybody hear my question earlier and wanna chime in? Because what I wanna
Oh
talk
yeah.
about a little bit
Let's
is
restate that question real quick.
okay.
Where are we
So
at?
the
Okay,
question was, the
go ahead.
last time you hooked up and we're headed out, let's say to an event, what was your mindset? What was your frame of mind? Were you anxious? Were you angry because your pony didn't get on the trailer well? Were you in a hurry? What was your frame of mind when you left? Were you concerned, like, I don't know, this tire or the motor sounds fun?
Mm.
Tell me a little bit about your frame of mind. And maybe it's always the same. Some people just, I hate doing this or whatever. So,
I feel like
anybody have
I'm
any thoughts?
always anxious. I'm always a little bit nervous. The nerves have come down within the past year or so. I don't know. I feel like I've just gotten like mildly used to it. And then also like I know that my pony is pretty much self-flowed and so that makes life a little bit easier and Remington's pretty easy when it comes to trailering. So, but other than that, I feel like I'm always running behind no matter how hard I try to get there early. It just takes longer than I plan on it taking, or I get stuck in traffic. But I'm definitely anxious, but it's not as bad as it used to be. And I just try to
Okay.
take it slow, and I don't worry about what time I get there. I'm just like,
Mm. That's a
I'll get
that's
there when I
that's a
get
good
there.
one. Is it
Yeah.
anybody else? Did anybody else comment earlier? Maybe not. When I first
Um,
threw it out there.
Genevieve said not confident. Oh, here we go. Karen says
Oh, hey,
nervous
Karen.
with Hi, Karen. Nervous with anticipation of panic about having to back up somewhere. Oh, That's a good one. Genevieve says not confident, expecting failure, but overcompensating with positivity.
Um, and the reason why I mention that is, and you guys are much better riders than I am, but I know from my racing days and even from my riding days that there are so many self-inflicted things that happen inside your brain
Yeah.
when it comes to your riding, when it comes to your driving, when it
Mhm.
comes to all that. And the reason why I like equestrian folks is because you have to be smart and you have to be analytical and you have to be anticipatory and you have to have a little bit of confidence and you can't run on fear all the time.
Right.
So it's a natural to apply to things like driving a truck and a trailer or other things that require a little bit of confidence with knowledge and to be in a safe zone.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that the frame of mind is a really important thing. Um, I was racing one time and this girl crashed. Somebody ran into her and she was really mad that this guy crashed her and totaled her car. And she was over in the pits and there was a floor jack, with the big handle, and she slapped it as hard as she could and it came back and it nailed her in the head. And she's bleeding and I'm laughing. I'm just laughing my ass off. I'm like, "I was stupid." But she had all that anger and she
Yeah.
applied it in a way that she hurt herself,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So it's not that you're gonna drive down the road that angry, but people do. People
Yeah.
do. And or you can't get over what just happened. Again, the classic is if your pony won't get on the trailer and now you're a half hour later, you had to call a friend to come help you. But you gotta let it go, right?
Right.
You
Right.
have to let it go and you have to move to the next task. If you mess up a race, you shouldn't carry that with you the rest of the session,
Mm-mm.
right? Learn from it,
Exactly.
move on.
You're not gonna
We all
you're not gonna have a good session if you just hang on to all of that stuff. So,
So, with the idea of the frame of mind, I'm gonna throw a concept out there that's gonna seem a little bit odd, but it kinda can work, especially for nervous drivers,
mhm.
okay? Imagine for a minute that when you leave your property with your trailer and truck hooked up. Now, you've hooked up your trailer that you know that the weight is good to the truck that you know can carry the weight, and your plug is in there all the way, and you've shook your wheel bearings, and you've checked your lights, and you've walked around. So you're like, "All right, I'm pretty good, right? The truck batteries are fairly recent. My tires aren't 8 years old. Like I'm good. I'm good." Now it's all those other crazy people on the road I gotta deal with to get to where I wanna go.
Yep.
So imagine that when you leave your property and you head out onto the public roads, you're at a disadvantage because you're in a truck with a trailer and you're not as nimble as you might be in your Honda Civic or whatever it is. All right. You're also a target for people that don't want to be behind you. They don't want to be near you. And they just assume that you're in their way and going slow. But if you look at the public roads as like Disney World, right? Everybody goes to Disney World for a different reason. Some
Okay.
people all right? So imagine the roads with all these people. They're all kinda there with a different frame of mind.
Right.
Some people think they're on Thunder Mountain. Some people think they're on the bumper cars, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's out there doing their thing, whatever it is. And you
Okay.
see all different levels of aggression and everything else. So what's your mindset? What's your Disney ride when you get out there with that big old heavy truck and trailer and your prized possessions in the back? What's your frame of mind? What Disney ride are you on?
I'm the turtle. I don't know if that's a Disney ride.
Yeah.
I've never been to Disney World. That's fun.
You're
I'm
on
the turtle.
y
Slow and steady wins the race.
you're on It's a Small World.
It's a
And
small
you're
world.
sitting in the little thing and you're riding, "It's a small world,
Oh,
everywhere
Karen won.
and
She
Poppy,
did it.
DJ, sing with
Oh,
me," like that. Exactly. It's a
yeah.
small world.
She got
And
it.
it's that I mean, it sounds dumb, but you gotta have that mindset. You gotta just kinda go, "All right, I'm here, and in a couple hours, I'm gonna be there, and we're
Mhm.
just gonna stay focused," right? We're just
Yep.
gonna drive, and we're not gonna worry. I know Jen told a story the other day about the guy that pulled around and checked up. It's the moment that happens, let it go.
Yeah.
Because it could cause the next thing. I have a friend that spent 8 years on disability because her husband had road rage and couldn't get over the fact this woman cut him off. And when
Mhm.
he crashed, she got hurt. So, it's really important. And when you're driving big, heavy stuff, sometimes you feel really confident because 'cause you're in this big beast, right?
Right.
No, no. you actually have more to think about. You have more to pay attention to. When you're driving, your head should be on a swivel. You
Yeah.
should not be doing this. Mirrors are everything, and hopefully you have good mirrors on your truck. I like the new GM mirrors that have a split. They have a big mirror, then they have a little like a dome mirror below. So
That's
I
nice.
can look over and see what's going on here, and I can look right down the alley and make sure there's nothing riding next to my trailer.
Yeah.
And for
We have
backing
like
the
the extended, and then we've got like the
right.
little extra circles that we've glued to our mirrors, and then we also have like
Mhm,
the bottom. So we've got like
yeah.
three ways of view.
So think about when you're driving, again, related to ponies, and I know there are some really good equestrians that might argue with my analogies, but I'm just kind of in general. You're not always looking at where you're going.
Hmm.
You're coming home and you look over at that other lane to see if somebody's going to beat you. Your pony's still going to go where you're
Yeah.
pointed, right?
Right.
Kind of
Right.
for a
Yeah.
second. You can do that with vehicles too. You can look at the gauges for a second. You can look in the mirrors and see what's going on around you, right?
Hmm.
Um, don't get the tunnel vision. Never be in a situation where you're not sure what's happening to the right and the left of you within your zone of the front and to the rear of your truck. Well, like I talked about the other night, you should really be aware of who's around you, that blue car, that red car, that motorcycle, so that if something goes awry,
Hmm.
you've already got a frame of mind in driving a car where we used to try to help like young people learn how to drive. I always say, hey, have an escape route. Already have something in your mind. If the lumber falls off the
Yeah.
truck in front of me, what am I going to do? And what can I not do? I can't
Right.
get into the other lane. I can't see around the truck.
Yeah.
I, so like think, and I
What
know
are
it
your
seems like a
options?
lot of
Yeah.
work, but if you like driving, which I do, so it's all
Right.
good for me.
Right.
You can do it well in that. Um, so you're in it's a small world and you got the ponies singing along with you, right? In the back, and you're just going along. And that things are going to happen. And you're just going to kind of try to let it go and just try to move on, get past it and be safe.
Hmm.
Um when you, and again, I wish there was a little more live interaction with people that are watching because my next question is how do you keep your truck and trailer centered on the road, especially going around, mild turns? Do you find yourself tracking in? If you look in your mirror, do you find that your trailer is coming over the line on the inside of the turn? So you're making a left turn. And if you happen to look at your mirror, do you feel like your trailer is tracking, kind of getting in the lane next to you?
No, my trailer's like right in line with my truck, thankfully. It's
Okay.
like
How
it's
long is your
wherever.
trailer?
How long is my trailer?
Yeah.
It's just a regular two-horse sundowner.
Okay. So it's a shorter trailer.
It's a
Okay.
shorter trailer, yeah. I
Yeah.
really don't.
Okay.
It's not that long at all. I barely have to. It follows the truck. Wherever the truck goes, the trailer pretty much goes. I'm very fortunate that I don't have to
Yeah.
like take wide turns. I still
It's like
take the wide turns, but
my bumper pole's like that. It
yeah.
literally, I don't know that I could take out a phone pole or something with it turning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if anybody has a problem with keeping their truck in their lane, or if they're starting to go around a corner and they feel like they're tracking, um, I'm going to have a hard time displaying this. But it's a little pro tip that is really good. Okay. So if you find yourself coming down the lane like this, and as you go through the corner, and this is the back of your trailer, all right? So just kind of understand what we're looking at here. If you find the back of your trailer tracking in, the way you can prevent that without making it a big deal is to do this. Oops. Hold on. I got to get my screen back. Give me a second. I lost all of it.
That's all right. Caroline says that
And
she
I got
highly
what was
recommends
the
we use a dash cam. If there's ever a question of road rage or accident, that might be what saves your bacon from a lawsuit because it eliminates the he said, she said.
no doubt about it. And in the heat of the moment, let them win. So whatever,
Yeah,
like just go, yeah, fine, have a nice day.
right,
I got
right,
thousands of dollars of ponies and equipment here that I'm not going to jeopardize to make a point,
right.
you know. And I know this is going to sound awful and take it for what it's worth and don't write me letters, but I think that female drivers are more likely to be the target of male road rage when they see it's a woman driving, that they've got an attitude about how she don't know what she's doing, or what, you know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
that so like I told Alice, never flip anybody off or blow your
No.
horn at them because some men don't have the ability to handle that real well. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? And
Mhm.
again, take it for what it's worth, but I'm just saying that it's just not worth none of it is worth any of it like that. Um, so you're driving down the road and you're finding out that if I can do this properly, I don't, my screen's too small. But you're going down the road and you're finding that when you're going this way around the turn, your trailer's tracking in a little bit. What you can do is all right, so we're kind of doing a shallow right turn, correct? Follow me through this. If you're looking out the windshield at the center of the road, you're very likely to track inside and have your rear wheels come over the line this way. If you shift your vision gently to the outside line, your truck will gently track to the left side of the lane and your wheels will stay inside your lane and not go over the line. When you're doing games, sometimes the target it's in racing, it's target fixation. The car goes where your eyes go. In
Mm.
games, sometimes the pony goes where your eyes go. We go around that fifth pole, right? You look home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look home and the pony comes around and looks home. That's
Mm.
the idea, right?
Yeah.
In driving, it's the same thing. It's why people are hit on the side of the road when they're changing a tire or a police officer has somebody pulled over. And you think, how could they not see them? Well, that was a problem. They were looking right at them, right? I'm
Yeah.
telling you, an old school truck driver friend of mine taught me that trick, and I thought, yeah, whatever. And I'm on the road, and I'm driving, and I'm going looking in my mirror, and I'm like, I'm tracking, and I take my vision from the center to that. I look at the outside line,
Yeah.
and my truck just comes over beautifully.
Oh.
Okay, and it really matters more. Like I have an 8 foot wide trailer, so it takes up a lot of the road. And if
Yeah.
you've never driven an 8 foot wide versus like a 7.5 or a 7, you don't think it's a big difference. But when
Yeah.
you look back, it's like wow. I mean, my wheels are like I only got 6 inches on either side of the white line of the lane. So you learn to become a little bit better driver. So you're looking over and you say, "Oh, I'm tracking." Look to the outside of the corner without stare. You don't have to stare at it. You just have to shift your vision. Just shift your vision
Yeah.
slightly, and I'm telling you, it will work. It's amazing.
Right. Linda says, depending on the turn, I have to stay a little wider, deeper into the turn to keep the trailer in my lane if taking left turn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it works in both directions, and so try my idea next time you feel like you're tracking in, just look to the outside of the lane. Look at that if you're turning right, you're gonna look at the yellow line. Like, if you're sweeping to the right, you're gonna look at the yellow line. If you're in the left lane, for example, and you're sweeping to the left, you're gonna look at the divided line.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You're gonna shift your vision from the center of the lane to the outside of the turn line, and I'm telling you, it's magic. It's a natural thing. Exactly. And it's not a big thing. It's not like a major thing. It's just a matter of focus. It's
Yeah.
why, you see people going down the road, it's like, can't they find the middle of the lane? But they're looking at the taillight or the driver of the car in front of them. So
Mhm.
they're over to the left.
Mhm.
See what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
not looking anyway. Those are like little pointers that help a lot.
Yeah.
Then we'll talk a little bit about my biggest pet peeve. If there's one thing that most people can do to become a better driver, and it's when I was teaching race car drivers, it was the hardest thing to get out of their head and the first thing that I worked on before I'd even think that they were ready to move on. And it
Okay.
has to do with the classic turning early.
Turning
Turning early.
early.
Early. Making your left turn. Oops, where's my marker? Making your left turn.
Oh, wrong way.
Oh, come on.
No.
Oh, hang on. I got to load this. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Give me a second. I gotta load. Let me switch this back. I gotta load my telestrator again.
Okay.
I must have clicked off of it. Just take a second. But making your left turn early and cutting across the other lane. Um, hang on. It's going to take me just a second to load this. But
Yeah.
this is the number one problem that people have. It's laziness, and it comes from huh, give me sorry, one more second.
I'd assume it
Um
comes from a lack of experience, just not
it's
knowing.
laziness. It's
Laziness.
laziness. And I'll tell you why that's such a problem. And this is why I need my there we go.
Okay.
I need my telestrator to do it. Okay. Let me just fix one more thing. Um because over the years it may not have been such a big deal.
Hmm.
Hang on, we're almost there. So I'm sorry. I just like the off button is right next to the pen. All right, back in business. So this is why it's a problem. You're
Hmm.
coming from here and you're going to make a left turn, and this is what everybody does. Everybody, I mean, you just see it all day long. They come across. They're making a left turn and they cut the corner. You can look at your favorite road nearby and look
Yeah.
at the paint and look how much of the paint's missing at the end of the thing because all the tires have scrubbed it off because they turn early. They
I
turn
think it's because
early.
people don't slow down. People don't slow down and
No,
they just ride right into that turn. And
it's partially that, but it's also partially because they're looking at where they want to go. Remember we're talking
uh,
about that? So they want to go here
yeah,
and they're here
yeah.
and they're looking at where they want to go.
Okay. Okay.
It always goes back to that. So some people would be very surprised to know that the lines in the road actually mean something, right? And
Yeah.
the reason why I'm hammering this point is because when you're pulling a trailer, it means that much more. You cannot cut. You cannot turn early. Okay. You need to come up and make your turn. That's kind of what the road engineers had in mind when they did all this. You would come up and you'd make a turn. But people don't like to turn the steering wheel that much and they're looking at where they're going. So now they're doing this.
Right. Right.
And I'll tell you why that's such a big problem nowadays is because we have right turn on red. So this guy's expecting to be able to come out.
Yeah.
He's not expecting you to come across his nose
Nope.
turning. And I have an intersection near my house where I've almost been hit by school buses. Let me kick this off here. Um, it's a never ending deal. Um, because everybody's cutting that corner and turning early. So if you in your normal driving, everyday driving days are doing that, and you get in a truck with a 3 horse living quarter, 34 foot, 37 foot trailer, you're going to have a really, really hard time staying out of trouble because you should be, you should be conditioned as a good driver already to come up and make that turn,
Mm.
not do that. Now imagine now you've got a trailer on the back,
Right.
right?
Right.
So now you got your phone pole here or whatever. And your natural habit is to do this. So you have to eliminate that. You have to look at the lines and come up on. Sometimes the lines seem really far, like, wow, I got to go all the way to the line and making my turn. I'm practically past it. But it's a guide to help you to remember, don't do this.
Right.
And when you're towing, you can't do that. Like you have to think about towing as more of an up, a turn, and a go as opposed to an arc. There's not a whole lot of arcing in towing a trailer that's going to remember we talked about tracking.
Yeah.
Now you're tracking, right? And you're dragging this thing in on you because
Hmm.
you're making a lazy turn.
Hmm.
So it's really important to get into a habit of coming up to the turn and turning the wheel more when you're ready to make the turn and make your turn become an L instead of this lazy swoosh,
Yeah. Yeah. I
right?
feel like another
And
thing you need to keep in mind for those people that do the lazy turns is that they just don't want to slow down. But what's really, really important when you're trailering is that you have to slow down for those turns. Just keep in mind that your ponies are back there. And if you don't bother to slow down and then you make that 90-degree turn, like you're just gonna slam their noses against the walls.
well,
So
and Yeah, you're gonna do that, and you're also you take a severe risk,
Yeah.
and like that's the school buses that come and cut the corner up at the top of my road.
Yeah.
They take a risk of me making a right turn on red and not seeing them. I mean, they're out in the road, man. They're not anywhere near my world, and they go, "Oh, I'm gonna turn left now," while I'm trying to come out and use my space,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole traffic thing about who has control of the intersection, and yada yada yada. And the guy making the right turn on red is probably going to get the ticket, even though the guy in the travel lane cut early and took him out. You shouldn't go unless it's clear. But I'm saying
Right.
everything in driving, especially on the road these days, is anticipating and expecting people to do something that
Yeah.
oftentimes they don't do.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to become a better trailer driver, think about extending your turns, always extending your turns. A little bit too much is fine. Not enough is a recipe for disaster. You don't have to swing way out and come across. If you turn later, right? Once you know where all your corners are and you get used to your trailer,
Yeah.
if you do what I say and you wait and you make your turn later, you don't have to go out into the other lane to swing it. I mean, they're tractor trailer drivers are under like a big thing now with their training schools not to swing into opposite lanes and not to do that crazy arc if there's any way to prevent it because you're swinging into oncoming traffic and you're
Right.
doing things that are unexpected. But a lot of accidents happen because one person driving has somebody else do something they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to do an hour on merging versus yielding with these ramps, that's a whole nother discussion. "Oh, you didn't let me in. I'm not supposed to let you in. You're supposed
Right.
to find your
You're the
spot,"
yielder,
right?
right?
I mean, that's a
You're
great
yielding.
conversation. But yet with merging, there's supposed to be cooperation, but
Right.
yielding is pretty simple. You wait until you're clear and time it. So I'm coming on, I got my truck and trailer and I'm looking, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm timing it." And this guy's going to go by and I'm going in behind him and he starts slowing down and he starts slowing down. Now he's at 20 miles an hour on a 70-mile-an-hour thing,
Yeah.
waving me in. That's the unexpected thing that causes accidents.
Right.
Be prepared for it, but kind of like don't be that guy doing the unexpected thing. Like if I'm in the right lane with the trailer and somebody's trying to get over and it's not going to cause me to tap the brakes, I'll lift and let him in. I'll be a nice guy. I'm
Yeah.
not going to slam on my brakes because
No.
want a participation trophy for being courteous because it's his job to wait, right?
Yep.
So when you're driving your truck and trailer, be aware that people will do things you don't expect. Don't be that guy. Kind of like stick to the rules and do your thing.
Mhm.
Um,
100%. Oh
and
my gosh. Tommy tells me that I should be a driving instructor someday. Whenever I retire, I should just
yeah,
retire and be a driving instructor because I'm constantly telling him that's not the law. Thomas, they have the yield. We have the right of way. And then I'm just going back and forth. Like, I'm like, I
well,
grade
and that's
him.
the
I
thing.
give him either an A to an F. And a lot of time he only gets a D. But that's
And
neither
that,
here
see,
nor there.
that's the thing about driver courtesy. Some people think they're really being nice to let you in, and under certain circumstances, that's cool. But if it's unexpected, they may actually be making when you're hauling weight,
Right.
they're making your job harder
Yeah.
because again, going back to racing, you're racing, you expect whatever's happening to continue to happen.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to tuck in behind somebody, I'm expecting them to like I'm waiting for them to
Continue.
for I can do my thing. And when things get all out of then that's where the accidents
Right.
start. And I'm going to throw another question. And I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to throw another question out real quick. Is because this goes back to Kimberly and something she talked about um, in a different episode.
Mhm.
If you're driving your truck and trailer, let's say we'll make it really interesting. You get a flat tire on your front on your steer. What's the first thing you do? All of a sudden, boom, right? Tire
Yeah.
goes out. Boom. Tell me the first thing you do.
I put my flashers on and I get over on the side of the road.
First thing.
First thing
I
I
mean,
do,
like,
I scream.
I mean, like, 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 it will be it should be a gut reaction.
I hit my brakes.
And I'm going to give people a
Let
minute to
off the
see if
gas,
anybody.
Caroline says. Let off the gas.
First thing in my mind, and again, people can argue with me about this all they want, but I've been there and done it. And the first thing you do, whether it's any
Look
of
in
your
your mirrors.
tires or anything, but especially if it's a steer tire, the first thing you do is to hold that wheel straight and stay in your lane. It doesn't matter how fast you're going. It
Okay.
doesn't matter about any of it. What matters is you do not veer and get out of your lane.
Okay.
So when we were in the ambulance one time and it blew a front right, and Alice was driving, and she started to, and I like grabbed the wheel and held it steady. I'm like, we don't need to go anywhere right now. We need to stay where we are and take off some speed. Because what happens is if you lose your front right tire and it goes down, when you think I'm going to veer over to the shoulder, you're going to button
More.
hook and take off, right? Because you don't have, so your job really is just to hold it steady
Mhm,
and gently take off your speed.
mhm.
Think about what just happened. I remember hitting a deer one time and it took me a second to realize what happened. It was like boom. And I'm like, okay, I just lost both my headlights. I'm not sure what happened, you know?
Yeah,
So I'm not in any hurry to do 8 different things, right? I'm just going to keep it steady and you're probably going to be death gripping the wheel and just hold it. Hold it in your lane, take off some speed. Then all the things you talked about. Second thing, check your mirrors. Let's see
mhm.
what your options are before you hit the brakes, before you veer, what's going on around you. Look, where am I going to land this thing, right?
Right,
It
right,
may be on the left shoulder. It may not
right.
be on the right shoulder, but you're staying in your lane and you're bleeding a little bit of speed by lifting and you're not slamming on the brakes or doing anything other than staying where you were. So
Yeah,
please, again, people can argue with me about that. The number one thing is not to make it go from bad to worse, right?
yeah.
Then you work your way over. You get far enough off the road that when you open your door, it doesn't get clipped by a tractor trailer or whatever that, or maybe you go out the passenger side, which I would do. I'd
Mhm.
climb if I in my truck, if I could climb over and get out the other side, I'm not in any hurry to get out on the road side of the travel side of the truck.
No.
But please think about that immediate reaction. Then I'll throw another one at you. Hydroplane. You go through a big puddle, right? What's the first thing you do?
See, I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know because I've never experienced it in any form of way, not even like on a video game or anything. I don't know.
Well, we have a road nearby that floods all the time, and you can be going along even in your car, and suddenly you realize that you're floating. Like it's bad. It's the same concept. You're going to hold the wheel straight because and like when you drive in slush and it's tugging on the wheel and it's trying to pull the wheel out of your hand,
Mhm.
like
Just
all
keep
that.
holding on to it straight.
Just keep it straight.
Yeah.
Lift. You never slam on brakes like that. You just lift and just kind of let it come off a little bit, right?
Mhm.
But it's always keep it straight.
Okay.
Keep well, keep it on the road. I mean, the road may be a curve, but I'm just saying, stay in your lane.
But stay in the same basically the same position that you were already in. Don't, like, try to
Yeah,
correct it is what you're
never,
saying.
never, never, never.
No.
And a lot of times those puddles are not that long, so you're only talking about a couple seconds, two,
Yeah.
3, 4 seconds. You go through and you keep going.
Yeah.
But that's why you have two hands on the wheel. Okay,
Yeah.
that's why you don't have earbuds. If anybody's driving with earbuds, they're illegal in most states because they want you to hear what's going on around you, like sirens.
Mhm.
Ditch the earbuds, right? I know a lot of people do it. Ditch the earbuds. Listen to what's going on around you. When you're driving in black ice, or you're driving in snow, or you're driving in hydroplaning, you can hear it
Yeah.
if you bother to hear it. If you don't have radio up all the way, you can hear the tires. Um, that and so you're not distracted by all that, and your hands should be, if not both hands on the wheel, your hands should be ready, especially if you're in the rain and you know that you could hydroplane. When I'm doing it, I put down the soda or whatever, like I'm driving. All right. That's my number one thing. I don't want it ripped out of my hand
Mhm.
because it happens. And especially with the truck and trailer, it goes from bad to worse. So, you're doing stuff like that, just being a responsible driver. Right.
Right.
Um, and let's see, there was one more on that topic that I wanted to get to. Oh, backing. Okay, and
Yeah.
again, these are just
That's a
like
great
really
one.
bullet points, right? We're not gonna get to
Right.
somebody mentioned about backing. I saw a thing, and I haven't tried it, but I understand the concept. In fact, I thought I was gonna come on in a couple of weeks, and I was gonna do a couple of videos, and this is one of the videos I was gonna do. Is the mind to get your brain thinking about backing. If you've never heard this, maybe you have. If you've heard it, never tried it, try it. Go out to the barn, get your wheelbarrow, put it behind you, keep your arms straight, and try to steer the wheelbarrow to where you wanna go.
Oh, okay.
It'll change your life. Because what you'll find out is if you want the wheelbarrow to go right, you have to shift your body to the left because you're pushing.
Oh.
See, you're pushing.
Yeah.
And when you're backing a trailer, you're pushing.
Mhm.
You're
Okay.
pushing the trailer where it wants to go.
Right.
Imagine your truck being you holding the front of the trailer going, "Well, I wanna go that way, so I need to move the nose the other way,"
Right.
right?
Right.
So play around with the wheelbarrow behind your body and get used to the idea that, "Oh, yeah, it's backwards." And what gets me is if I drive a trailer for hours and then I get in my car and I go to back up, I always go the wrong direction because 'cause I've been backing the whole day and I'm used to, like I'm like, "Oh, man, no."
That's
Now
funny.
we're back to normal backing.
Right.
Um, Try that, and the other thing you can do, and I did this with Alice, it drove her crazy. I took the shortest little garden cart that we had, the little two-wheel, those little red garden carts,
Yeah.
put it on the back of our lawn tractor, and I made her back it. And any of you guys, and Kenny, I'm sure, I mean, any of you guys that have ever backed, there's nothing harder to keep straight than a short wheelbase single wheel garden tractor behind your ATV or your tractor. It jackknifes in a half second.
Right. Right. You have to be right the first time.
So you gotta be ahead of it and you gotta turn before you, like, you don't wait till you don't react to it, you're ahead of it, right? Those are some good backing. Let's see.
Caroline says, I put my hand on the bottom of the steering wheel and pull it in the direction I want the rear of the trailer to go.
Yeah,
Trailer to
yeah,
go.
and it makes sense because if you think about that, you want the trailer to go to the right, okay?
You'll
So
go
you need to turn the wheel to the
counterclockwise.
right. Well, you go clockwise on the wheel to push the trailer, but your hand
Right.
is going to the left. So it's the same concept with the wheelbarrow behind your back. You
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You because what you're doing with the trailer is you're pushing it with the rear wheels, and
Yeah.
that's, I think, probably the thing that confuses people the most about backing is they look at where the nose of the truck is, and they can't understand why the trailer is somewhere else.
Yeah.
Everything is happening behind you. Everything's happening on the rear wheels of the truck being the pusher, and the front wheels just help you line that up.
Right.
So you can't think here, you gotta think there. It's push, 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 and it's the rear wheels of the truck need to be in the right place.
Right. Right.
And so with the wheelbarrow, it's your arms are kinda behind your back or the rear wheels. So
Mhm.
you're right?
Yeah.
Like that. It has the nose of the truck could be anywhere. It's really a matter of where the back of the truck is. And what Carol Ann's saying is when you do that, it shifts the back of the truck to where it pushes the trailer.
I'd
And the
like
other
to
thing too is you wanna get out of that turn before you realize you need to get out of that turn.
mhm.
Because if you wait, now you're gonna have to, the old pull straight, back up because they would wait too long. Like it's a fluid thing.
Right.
And it's look, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for everybody, but yeah. So that would we see 90% of backing is driving forward, 6 we're driving in the spot reverse.
Set yourself up for success when driving up to the spot where you need to reverse, i.e., leave room for truck to swing out and have trailer set up for new direction of travel. That's what Caroline
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, and I agree with that totally, and one of the things like when I was trying to help Alice learn to drive trailers a little bit, and I was always said, "It's all about the back wheels, it's all about the back wheels." When you're turning is where those trailer wheels are, nothing else matters. If you're making a turn,
Mhm.
am I gonna clear that foam pole on the right with the rear wheels of the trailer? I have to think about where those wheels are. It doesn't matter where I am as
Right.
much, it matters, so we're pivoting around the back of the trailer. In backing, you're pivoting the back of the trailer, but you're using the back wheels of the truck to get you there. That's why I love goosenecks, because, I mean, you can,
Right.
depending on your truck and
You
without taking
can
out your
really
rear
just go.
window,
You can go
right,
forever with
you
them.
can
Yeah.
really play around with them where
Yeah.
bumper pulls can get all ratcheted up sometimes. And
Right.
I think in a way, goosenecks are easier to see your positioning with mirrors. I
Right.
don't know. I mean, but
I think they
in
are. I definitely appreciate my gooseneck. I know that it kind of spoils me. Someday I'll end up having a bumper pull because I think Tommy and I want to get a truck camper and then do the bumper pull lifestyle. But for now, the gooseneck, I've gotten really used to it and it's really efficient and everything.
and we bought a little sundowner. It's a little 8-foot cargo trailer to
Nice.
carry dog stuff to the dog show.
Yeah.
And they back funny, and we haul it with our Volvo. It's fine. The trailer only weighs like 700 pounds.
Okay.
And when Alice hooked it up, she was going to take it to South Carolina. I'm like, I had it hooked up. I was like, let's take it up to the parking lot by the dollar store. I just want to see you one time back in a space because you're going to get to the Airbnb with this little trailer, and
And
it's
I
going to be like the garden cart, right? It's going to be all over the place. And it took about 3 passes, and there's a truck driver unloading goods at the dollar store at the loading dock, and he's
oh no.
watching. And by the time we got to the end of it, he kinda gave us a thumbs up, like, for making the effort to do a little training
Yeah.
out of the way, not trial by fire. The first time she pulled a trailer, I said, "You've got to learn to back this thing without mirrors. You have to learn." She goes, "Well, I just won't turn around." I said, "Yeah, you're gonna call me from the West Coast saying I'm at the ocean.
I'm
I never
stuck.
found a good place to turn around." And you do that, you just on a Sunday, go to an empty lot somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't get cones and all that. You're not gonna be parking and driving with cones. Use the lines, the painted lines in the parking lot, and work on backing and pivoting and anticipating the turns back and that, become more comfortable because you don't wanna be at an MA and be trapped. And the Grange is nice because you can pull through just about everywhere.
Right.
But imagine like you go to Morven Park or you go to some of these places and it could easily be where somebody dumped their car in a place where now you're gonna have to be clever to go home.
Yeah.
And those things should be or the gas stations. I think, Carly, you mentioned that about how what do you do when you get into
Yep.
these places?
They are
Um,
difficult.
it's a little bit of practicing, um,
Right. No,
a little bit of thinking.
I've definitely taken my truck and trailer to parking lots multiple occasions. Just like today we're gonna work on backing up. Today we're gonna work on how much space do I need to make it around this telephone pole and really get to know the size of my rig and know, just feel more comfortable in it. Cause I think a couple years ago, it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago at this point, I was driving on my way to New Jersey. I think it was like Mullica Hill, New Jersey, Allentown, whatever. It was probably like MA5-ish, and
Mhm.
it was tight. They had construction on both sides of the interstate, and I just was having a panic attack for like 30 minutes at a time. Just like so tense. I was so sore after that weekend and literally wasn't from the riding at all. It was just from the driving. So I was like, okay, I need to figure out because if the big rig in front of me can fit through this road, so can I, because I'm not as wide as he is, or I'm not as large as he is. So I just took a couple weekends and practiced and got to know my trailer a little bit better.
Well, it especially I call it knowing the corners.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get into somebody else's. I remember one time, Alice, with our truck, you can pivot all the way around, like the gooseneck, you can come all the way around.
Yeah.
So the woman years ago was having trouble getting her trailer backed and sighted, and she said, "Will you do it for me?" And Alice said, "Sure." And she jacked it like that and took out the rear window of the truck because that particular truck, the way that the trailer was sitting in the bed and the way the
Oh,
trailer was made, you couldn't do that. You know what I mean? You couldn't do a
yep.
complete right angle push.
Yep.
Whenever I buy one, I'll have somebody stand there because inside you think it's gonna hit even though it won't. But I'm
Yeah.
like, "Will you watch this and tell me if I'm anywhere near?" Because I need to know that ahead of
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So some of that depends on your truck and trailer, but it's important to know all of that stuff ahead of time and have confidence. And sometimes there just are places you can't go. And discretion is a better part of valor with these things.
Mhm.
Um, my pet peeve, I don't know if anybody's still watching. I know we're going really late and
We
and
still got
and you
10
just
viewers right now.
basically get out the hook when you're done with me. But when somebody is there trying to help, "Oh, little missy, let me help you. Turn your wheel this way and turn your wheel that," right?
Yeah.
She will melt down if somebody tries to help,
Oh, no.
and a lot of people do. They're like, "1, I don't need you watching me. I'm
Yes!
already having trouble,
Go away!
right? And 2, everything you're saying makes no sense to me. I'm sitting in here like, I no." The
Right.
only time it's beneficial, and I don't like it, people generally don't do that with me, but every now and then somebody will. I ignore them when they're doing it.
Yeah.
I just literally ignore them and go on about my thing.
Yeah.
I don't mind somebody telling me if I know I'm getting really close to something, if they're
Yeah.
standing there going, you're good," because seeing over the truck.
Right. I do
Or when
appreciate that.
somebody's going, "Now turn it to the left." No, 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 no. It's like,
No, 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 no.
Thanks,
Just
but
tell me
no
whether or not I'm
thanks."
gonna make it, because here we go.
Right, Carol Ann. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Carolyn says, "I hate people watching me." Yes, 100%. Go away.
But, and I'll tell you another thing, and this probably doesn't apply to most people because they don't have the opportunity to do it, although you can even do it with your farm tractor. I'm gonna tell you something else that really helps you learn to drive better is plowing snow.
Mm,
I spend more time driving in reverse, plowing snow than I do forward.
that's funny.
Because you do the push and then you back up, then you do the push and then you back up, and then you turn, and then you maybe wanna go another way, and maybe I'll back all the way around the building and to pick up my thing. my backing skills are extremely good with mirrors in vehicles
Mhm.
because I've spent so much time in the mirrors, especially doing things like plowing snow.
Mhm.
So, it changes your mindset when you're driving in reverse
Yeah.
versus driving forward all the time.
Yeah.
So if you have a farm and somebody's always doing the plowing, maybe offer to do it, especially if it's in a truck, in a
Yeah.
pickup truck or whatever, to get used to that different. Right? I'm driving backwards. I'm driving the truck with the rear wheels. I'm
Mhm.
pointing it where I want it to go.
Right.
And in my plowing stuff that I do, I mean, I'll come this close to buildings and stuff, but I know where everything is and I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And it that helps a lot.
Right.
Most of the problems that people have are because they're in the situation for the first time, which is why I believe you should go out and drive find a parking lot and drive in the snow and ice and learn what happens when your car slips and slides and loses traction. So you're not shocked by that the first time it happens
Mhm.
on the road. And the
Right.
same thing with backing. Put yourself in different situations that you can get out of.
Mhm.
Um, but do it when you're practicing. Just, you know, I
Yeah.
think that will, to me, that would help build confidence because now it's not all new to you. It's why we practice games in the front yard
Right.
and why
Right.
some people practice games and they don't always put the bottle right where it's supposed to be on the barrel. They're going to go by and pick it up when it's in the wrong place to practice because it's
Yeah.
probably going to happen.
It's all about getting
Right?
those reps in. At the end of
Yeah.
the
So
day,
same
you
thing
just gotta do
with
it.
driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, it's a small world. It's just easy breezy.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg. Oh my gosh.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I don't know if you
Yeah.
have any closing thoughts or anything else you wanted to bring up for tonight
No, I
or
apologize for going long again, but
no, you're good.
these are subjects I enjoy, and I hope, if nothing else, if people will. Oh, sure, Kim. Yeah, happy to do it.
Kim says thanks for pop quizzes and driving scenarios today. Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and the just maybe thought provoking.
Hmm.
Try to help take some of the fear away, also to make it safe for you and your ponies and your passengers. Because I mean, again, I always want to feel like the liability guy, but we have hauled other people's kids with us
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I don't
Right.
want to put somebody else's kid in a bad situation in my truck.
Right.
So I want to make sure that my stuff's good, that, if something happened, that it wouldn't come back on something I did or didn't do or could have done or,
Yeah.
there's all that with what we're doing. So you want to be right on it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen says, as we wrap up, Karen says, thank you. Can we watch the old episodes? Absolutely. Our old episodes should be on our YouTube channel on
They're on
Unbridled
YouTube,
Talk.
and what you have to do, Karen, is you'll see videos, then there's a tab called live. Mine are still under the live because they haven't been like edited and converted to videos yet.
Hmm.
So go click on the live tab. This is like the third one I think we've done
Yeah.
like that. And
This
so,
is live number
yeah, please do. And
3.
again, if I can help anybody any way I can, and not all my opinions are 100% the way people would agree with, and that's fine. I'm just trying to give you stuff to think about.
Yeah, but like comment on your perspective of what Greg has said. Give us some comments, some likes, and I think we've got up to 15 views tonight. So let's see if we can get any more likes before we close out.
Yeah, and like
And we
Genevieve
appreciate
says, like
everybody.
and subscribe, right? So you
Yes.
guys can get to your 100.
Exactly, like and subscribe. We're super close to our 100 subscribers on YouTube, and once we get there, we will then start releasing all of our podcast episodes on all the major podcasting platforms through Apple Podcast, etc., Buzzsprout, Spotify, and all of those other places that you can listen to podcasts.
And the final thing would be that if you're willing to have me back, I'm more than happy to come back, maybe in a month or so, whenever,
Yeah,
or when there's a hole in your schedule, and
definitely.
we'll talk a little bit about spring trailer shopping, and maybe
Yes,
just some things to think about if you're going to go out looking for
yes,
your next trailer. Okay,
yes.
and I'm happy to talk about that.
Let's shop for a bumper pool for me for
Okay.
the next 5 years. Let's plan on that. All right. Thanks
So
again,
so
Greg.
just out of curiosity, because you have a gooseneck now that
I do.
you want to switch. Why?
Because Tom and I want to get a truck bed camper for our
Oh,
dually.
that's right.
That
Okay.
was the main
Okay.
purpose
Cool.
of getting the dually was so that we could have a truck bed camper. He could take it on weekends with the boat, and then we could take it on weekends with the ponies. It was supposed to be dual
Yeah,
purpose. So
that's fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the plan. But yeah. All right. We'll definitely be bringing you on again next time. Thank you so much for stepping in last minute tonight. We really
Sure.
appreciate you. I know I
Yeah.
definitely could not have talked this long by myself. All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.